All right, today we're going to go on a little microscopic journey. We're going to get to know one of the most common, but also one of the most overlooked organisms that affects literally millions of people all over the world. So let's dive right in.
First things first, I've got a question for you. Just take a second and think about it. What do you think is the most common, curable STI on the entire planet? The answer? Well, it might just surprise you. So, the answer is an infection called trichomoniasis. And get this, it's not caused by a virus or even a bacterium. Nope, it's caused by a tiny, single-celled parasite. So let's meet the main character of our story today, Trichomonas vaginalis.
And they're not talking about some rare exotic bug here. This thing is literally found worldwide. It is a true globetrotter. We're talking an estimated 156 million new cases every single year. You can find it in just about every population on Earth, which is exactly why it's such a major public health issue that's, kind of hiding in plain sight.
So what does this little parasite actually look like? I mean, to really understand how it operates, we've got to get to know it first. Its shape, its personality, the whole shebang. Now, this word on the slide, trophozoite, is absolutely key. This is the one and only form Trichovaginalis ever takes. See, unlike a lot of other parasites, it doesn't have a dormant protective cyst stage. And what that means is it's always active, it's always moving, but it also means it's pretty fragile once it leaves the safety of the human body. And here's what it looks like up close. Picture a tiny little pear-shaped organism, just a few micrometers long. It's got these four little whip-like tails called flagella at the front to pull it forward, and a fifth one that runs along its side like a rudder for steering. This whole setup is what gives it this very distinctive jerky movement, which, as you'll see in a bit, is super important for diagnosing it. So, where does it call home? Well, its preferred real estate is very specific: the human urogenital tract. And its preference for these spots is really the key to understanding how it lives and, even more importantly, how it gets from one person to another. Okay, so we know what it is, we know where it lives. Let's talk about its life story. The way this parasite survives and multiplies is, believe it or not, incredibly simple, but also incredibly effective. Its entire life plays out inside a human. That's it. It hangs out in the urogenital tract, it makes more of itself by just splitting in two, and then it gets passed directly to a new host. There are no complicated stages. It doesn't need to live in another animal first. It's just a straight shot, direct transmission. And probably no surprise here, the main way it moves between people is through sexual contact. It's also often a +1 infection. Where you find one STI, you often find others. And this one loves to hang out with friends like gonorrhea or HIV. And in some cases, a baby can actually pick up the infection from its mom during childbirth. Right, so we know what it is and how it spreads. But what actually happens when someone gets infected? What's the real impact of this tiny little organism on its human host? And this slide right here shows one of the biggest challenges with this parasite. It's really a tale of two different experiences. In women, an infection can be really obvious, causing things like severe itching, a very specific kind of discharge, and a burning feeling. But in men, it's often totally silent. They're completely asymptomatic. Sometimes they might get a mild urethritis, which is just an inflammation of the urethra, or other conditions like epididymitis or prostatitis. But the big takeaway is that many men can carry this parasite and pass it on without ever having a clue that they're infected. And for people who do get symptoms, they usually show up somewhere between 4 days and 4 weeks after they were first infected. So what do you do if you think you might have it? Okay, so with symptoms that can range from really severe to, well, non-existent, how do doctors actually find the evidence? How do they confirm that this parasite is the culprit? Well, the classic method is to just look for it under a microscope. A clinician takes a sample and looks for that very unique, jerky, twitching movement of the live parasite we talked about earlier. If they don't see any, they can try to culture the sample, basically growing more of the parasite so it's easier to spot. But for the highest level of accuracy, they can use a molecular test, like PCR, to find the parasite's genetic material. That one's the most sensitive and can find an infection even if there are very few parasites around. Now, here's the good news. Once it's diagnosed, this parasite story can be brought to a really quick end. So let's get into the final chapter: how you treat it and how you prevent it. The infection is very, very treatable with an antibiotic called metronidazole.
The standard game plan is a 250 milligram dose taken 3 times a day for about 10 days.
And this is really important. For any expecting mothers out there, this drug is considered safe to use during the later stages of pregnancy, so both mom and baby can be protected.
But here's the thing. Just treating the person who has symptoms is not enough. This is so important. Because the infection is so often silent, especially in men, it is absolutely required that all sexual partners get treated at the same time. If you don't, you just end up in a cycle of passing it back and forth. And rule number 2 is just as critical. You've got to wait until everyone has finished their full course of medicine before resuming any sexual activity.
And that all brings us to our final question, something to really think about. We know this parasite is common, we know it's curable, and we know it's everywhere. But if it's so often silent, a character that doesn't even announce it's there, just how many infections are going completely undiagnosed every single year, just allowing that cycle to continue? It's a really powerful reminder of what can be hiding in plain sight.